historically, Arup Acoustics is known for the performing arts, these are some of our rooms. It had been the backbone of what we used to do. Up until fairly recently, actually, it was still a major part of the work that we do. But we've now diversified very much so that we work in all aspects of building acoustics, in rail and aviation, environmental, immersive 3D visualization and oralization is work that we have started spearheading, started working in health impact assessments, and obviously theatre consulting, and we also do some work with some artists. Now, I've been asked to talk about the importance of links between consultancy, industry and academia, and I think perspective is interesting here because from my perspective, industry is consulting. Industry is building its infrastructure. But from an academic's point of view, you probably look at me and view me as industry. So there's an interesting change in perspective that I think we need to address. Similarly, there's a difference in our research goals. Because from an academic's point of view, what you're trying to do is to ask questions, whereas actually from a business point of view, what we're trying to do is to answer them, and is to actually close down skills gaps and close down business opportunities. So I think we need to appreciate that we're coming at research from different points of view, but actually, where they do collide, it can be massively beneficial for everyone. So, regardless of perspective, I'm going to talk about research from an Arup perspective, and some of the important things that we've been working on. Now, Arup is pretty interesting and pretty unique, I think, in the amount of money it invests in research and development. We self-invest. We're owned, like John Lewis's, we're owned by the staff. And we have what we call skills networks. And within the firm, people are encouraged to suggest research topics. These are then grouped in terms of whether they are going to fulfill skills gaps or business needs. And then they are not voted on essentially, but the Arup Council decides who is going to get the funding and who isn't. So we have the Arup University Council and we have experts in all of the individual fields. Now the Acoustics Skills Network, interestingly enough, which of course is the first skills network. There are 44 altogether, starting with A for acoustics, which is brilliant, and ending with W for wind. I lead the acoustics one. And the average funding per head is greater for the acoustics network than any other network, which I think speaks volumes about the creativity and interest in research that acousticians generally have. This is a large number. Arup investment in research and development this year is £42 million. Now that's global, and that's currently over 1,200 projects, and it covers all disciplines. So that's not just acoustics. Now the reason we invest this much money is that we think it's the actual lifeblood of our business. It's how we get better. It's how we do things differently. 60% of this funding we target to be with external partners, and most of those are academic institutions, closely followed by industry. Now, we've seen in the last few years how Arup-led acoustic innovation has assisted in streamlining and de-risking and helping all sides understand better the issues around planning decisions for major infrastructure projects. These stakeholders include the public, the clients, key community stakeholders, operators, councils, and government. I'm going to mention a couple of key examples to illustrate the research benefits provided for HS2 and for Heathrow. These are major infrastructure projects, and these are schemes in which the noise of the transport systems affects the population through which or over which it passes. The Arup innovation of Sound Lab was born out of investment in continuous global research over the last 10 years. Its rigorously calibrated 16-channel ambisonic 3D audio facility, developed and funded by Arup. Development has involved links with academic research establishments and now with NASA. This facility is now replicated 13 times, I don't think there are 13 out there, around the world in our major offices. It's been used to refresh the way in which public consultations are undertaken to actually demonstrate to communities and stakeholders the impact of noise from new proposals on their community. In many cases, the demonstrations have taken the fear out of the proposals to the community, and it has also allowed design decisions to influence the route that railway, road and flight paths may take. Our approach and technology has demonstrated a clear benefit to the government. For example, the Davis Commission used SoundLab to understand various proposals for the third runway. 5 Secretaries of State and the Prime Minister have listened to our HS2 oralisations, with calibrated binaural demonstrations being given at the Houses of Parliament. Of more radical influence, our work has changed the planning process and provided comfort to the lives of those worried by the prospects of new proposals or changes to existing conditions. Such is the influence of the applicability of this research on the consultation process that Highways England has now written into their tender documents the requirement for sound demonstrations to be part of all future new road schemes. So this is an example of acoustics research influencing government policy. Particularly interesting is a recent new research programme between Arup and NASA, which is a sentence I never thought I'd say. And it's just been encouraged with NASA Langley Research Centre in the US to increase our joint oralisation capability. Now, the ambition of this is to be able to simulate new arrival and departures of aircraft to explore ways to minimise community noise while maximising capacity, to predict the noise of unconventional aircraft where existing measurement data is non-existent. I don't think we're talking about spaceships, but I don't know. And to use the methodology as a design tool to assess future airspace change. These are opportunities to link up with all kinds of organisations to further our combined acoustics knowledge and further our skills in design and management of noise effects on communities, genuinely helping to improve lives through research. Another totally different, hello, how many minutes is that? 2, all right then. Another really quick one. We're doing a lot of work at the moment on sports stadium design and research with the Premier League and with Sky. And a lot of the work we've been doing is to try and identify what forms a good stadium, what actually helps enhance the crowd atmosphere. We've done loads of work in concert halls, but no one's done any of this sort of work in stadia. And anecdotally, some are better than others, so we're trying to find out what's going on. So we've been doing a lot of work with the Premier League and with Sky Sports, who've actually gained us access into stadia to do this work. Starting off with, in each case, doing some LiDAR scanning. Oh, hello. Okay, where did it? And finding automated ways in which LiDAR scanning can actually be taken into an acoustics model from which you could generate immediate oralizations without having to go through extensive, tedious modelling exercises. Something like this, doing this kind of LiDAR scanning takes next to no time. Building an acoustics model from something this complicated could take a lifetime. So we're working on being able to condense all of this so we can actually listen to what these sound like, so we can hear the differences between different roof materials, different geometries, different distances, different sound system distributions, and actually have people understand the differences that these changes can make. So this is just a small part of some of the research that Arup are doing. I don't think we can possibly underestimate the importance of research, and it cannot be underestimated the value that it has to people. On this evidence, I wholeheartedly support this new network.